Today, we are used to applications communicating with others while running, either to validate credentials or to obtain specific data that our app needs. For example, for login, you can use authentication from Facebook, Google, Apple, and so on. These identity providers have published services that receive authentication requests, allow users to enter their credentials and return a token, such as the application's code. This indicates whether authorization was granted or not, and this information is then used by our application. Another example is when we use an online shopping site. When purchasing a product, at the time of payment, our application connects to a payment service, which in turn communicates with our bank, processes the transaction, and returns the result. Then, the purchase data is sent to the distribution company, until finally the product is delivered to us. These kinds of interactions, where one application communicates with others and shares data and functionalities, will become increasingly common. This communication is carried out through an application programming interface, or API. An API is a set of rules and protocols that make it possible for different software applications to communicate and interact with each other. This allows one application to request data or functionalities from another without needing to know the details of its internal workings. GeneXus allows us to expose both our data and our logic through the API object. An API object lets us publish the logic of objects and procedures so that other systems can use functionalities from our application. We can also publish data retrieved by data provider objects. An API object adds an intermediate layer that ensures future changes in the programming of the objects do not affect the way they are invoked by external applications. This allows mapping between the internal name of the object in the KB and the name under which it is exposed as a service. It also makes it possible to change the type and name of the parameters or modify the access path, without this affecting the way the service is invoked. We open the GeneXus IDE and we're going to ask Nexa to create an API object for us, and we'll also ask it to create an object, a procedure to get the name of an attraction, and another procedure to change the name of an attraction. And those procedures will be the ones used by the API object. Therefore, in the prompt, we write the following. The assistant is analyzing our request and creates the objects as it processes it. During this process, Nexa might ask us some questions to ensure the implementation is exactly what we're looking for. Here it finished creating the objects. We can see that the architect created a procedure called Update Attraction Name Procedure, a procedure that will handle updating the name of an attraction, and another one called Get Attraction Name Procedure, which will be responsible for obtaining the name of an attraction based on an attraction ID. And it also created an API object that exposes these two procedures we just saw. If we look at the syntax, we can see that to the left of the equal greater symbol is the name of the service. This is how other applications will see it, and on the right is the internal name of our object in the KB. On the left side, it shows whether each parameter is input, output, or input-output, since for exposed services, this is mandatory. The API object generates a file with this extension, which contains all the information about the published services, and this file is copied to the web server, which will be responsible for associating it with a URL so that the services that publish logic or data become accessible via the web to any external application. Applications will send the required parameters and obtain the exposed information. In this way, we can achieve much more flexible solutions, sharing functionalities and data without having to implement everything within each individual application.